Hello, this is Steve Adamco, the owner and founder of Spectrum Interiors here in Portage/Kalamazoo, Michigan. And I'm going to start a few tips relative to home staging. And this is home staging tip number 1. As much as home staging can accomplish relative to the presentation of a home and the potential and possible furniture arrangements that you can see, it does not show you your furniture in that particular home. The only thing that can really do that is space planning a home to scale on a floor plan with your furniture to see how it is going to work in your particular situation. This is borne out very specifically because when I was purchasing a house in Grand Rapids, I saw one house that was very similar to the one I ended up buying, and it was an all-brick home, which I love all-brick homes, hip roofs, deep overhangs, things of that nature. And like I always do, I always space plan it, so I make sure that it fits me exactly and there's no surprises after the fact. So when I drew this out, I found out that the traffic flow would not work nearly as well as I wanted it to work out. Matter of fact, it would cut through a conversation area in order to get to the upstairs. Well, I didn't want that. I wanted things to be separated and nicely laid out. And so that particular room did not work out very well. The other thing is that I can draw a room, let's say the same size. Let's say we want to do 12 by 18. And I can draw another 12 by 18 and another 12 by 18 and another 12 by 18 and just change out the number of doors and windows, then change out their placements and shuffle that around. Every time you do that with that particular dimension of a room, and obviously it's the same square footage, there's going to be a lot of things you can do and a lot of things that you can't do with every change of scenario, even though the room is, let's say, 12 by 18 and it stays 12 by 18. Okay, so this is extremely important. This is extremely important that we understand that this home that you're contemplating buying, and it really doesn't matter if it's, 150,000 or 1.5 million, doesn't matter. Even with more space, sometimes you've got to be careful about how that's handled. And sometimes more space doesn't mean more space. If things are put in that floor plan that inadvertently cut up the space, then it's not going to be really as much space as you think it is. Even though it says it's, let's say, 5,500 square feet, you may end up with an effective use of 3,200 square feet. Then this does happen in the real world. And so staging is just a presentation mode. The best thing you can do, and I'll get back to my story about the house that I almost bought, which I'm glad I didn't. Good thing I, even as a professional, drew it up and space planned it to see if it would accommodate my furniture exactly the way I wanted it. Not with, I wanted to put this sofa and two tables next to it and then a chair. And oh my gosh, I don't have a room big enough or a wall long enough for it. So a lot of amateurs just go by this, well, you can't sell a home unless it's staged. Well, it's only staged in a particular way, with a particular placement, with a particular style, AKA staging furniture. I mean, it looks like it. It just looks like it most of the time. And then when people throw things on an angle for everything they do, it's like, oh, come on, give me a break. This is so amateurish. But I guess it's one of the tricks of the trade for home stagers. A lot of these home stagers, they don't really have a deep history in terms of real bona fide design. They come from a lot of other places and now they're the apparent expert, or they're accredited, or they're certified. Well, what does that mean? It doesn't mean really much. Okay, anybody can say that they're certified by some other company that certifies them, that gets paid for certifying them. It's not an independent body. It's not an independent government body. And a matter of fact, home staging is not even overseen by any government body at all. Okay? You don't have to have a staging license like you need to if you're going to be in real estate or a home builder or any other occupation that requires a license. I mean, hey, we don't need a golf license, but you sure do need a fishing license. Okay, so don't leave home without it. But anyway, the home that I ended up buying was superbly laid out. I mean, just the juxtapositions and the adjacencies of the room and the traffic flow was exceptional. And it worked with my furniture phenomenally. Well, that's now a good investment. Okay, again, it doesn't matter if you're paying $80,000 for a home or $8 million for a home. It does not matter. Okay? And for those of you that have a certain limited budget, you may be able to afford a home that's 250,000, 500,000, whatever. But in many cases, a lot of these folks don't really even have enough furniture to furnish the home correctly. It's like, well, nice home, but it looks like inside, like maybe you got leftover furniture from college. It's sparse, it's bare, it's all kinds of things. So anyway, that's one of the things that staging cannot do for a potential home buyer. The other thing is it doesn't always serve the seller that well because it only shows one way that a house can be shown, or it only shows one presentation. Consider that if the house was shown in multiple fashions, and I'm going to actually purposely use the word fashion. Okay, so you have the same model. Let's say we've got 10 models in a fashion show, and this is going to be a 2-hour fashion show. They're going to put on all these different outfits. So you're going to see all kinds of fashions. And a lot of them, if it's like, oh, that model has my same body type, then wow, okay, I can see how good she looks in these different types of outfits. That's a real true portrayal of the possibilities. Okay, you don't get that with staging. Get that with space planning. So anyway, staging can be a definite positive marketing aspect for the buyer or the seller in certain cases and scenarios. And then other times it's worthless. It doesn't do anything. And just beware of people trying to draw your attention to the corner of the kitchen counter or something, a pop of color here and a pop of, all that stuff goes, okay? You're buying real estate, not the stuff that's put in there that eventually gets taken out. So I see a lot of this in the staging industry where they seem to promise, almost guarantee, we will sell your house quicker and for more money. Okay, that's good. Good for the seller. Hey, anybody wants to make a profit if they can on their home or whatever it is they're selling. But just remember, there's two sides of this equation. You've got the seller and you've got the buyer. Well, from what I've seen all my years, most people don't want to pay more than they have to for anything. Now, most houses are not necessarily a commodity. They are unique for the most part, unless it's a plat or a certain model of home that's being duplicated with, exterior changes and some minor or minimal interior changes. But, for the most part, it's the same footprint, same square footage. But it doesn't always serve buyer and seller that well because the seller has only one mode of presentation. Just like a model, instead of modeling 10 outfits, he can only model one. Well, what if somebody says, wow, I really like that arrangement, that presentation, that way of utilizing this house? They don't get to see it, do they? They don't. Think about it. They do not get to see it. It's just that one presentation. And then the people in the real estate industry and other related industries say, well, you got to appeal to everybody. Sorry, folks, you can't appeal to everybody. I mean, it's impossible to appeal to everyone. Okay. Otherwise, Baskin-Robbins would have just one flavor of ice cream, wouldn't they? Okay, so we need to start thinking smart about this and smart about selling a home and smart about buying a home. The best scenario is a win-win scenario where the buyer and seller win. They're both happy. Hey, I'm happy I'm selling the home to you. Hey, I'm happy I'm buying it from you as a seller. And it's kind of a neat little scenario that everybody feels good about, okay? So, and it's a fair price. I get what I want out of the house. They get to pay what they want, and we're both happy. Can't do any better than that. All right. So again, it takes two to tango. You got somebody representing the seller and a real estate agent. You've got somebody representing the buyer. They both want maybe different and similar things. The seller wants to sell it for as much as they can, or he or she can, and the buyer wants to pay as little as he or she can and still get what they want. So these are at odds to each other. These are at odds with each other. So we've got to look at it as a whole thing. It's one deal. Okay. There's always two parts to a deal. There's always two parts to a home sale. There's always two parties to a home sale. Okay. And the home stagers mostly are looking at it from one point of view. And then they say, well, we're going to do this specifically for you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, but we're going to appeal to all these buyers out there unrealistically, in a sense. And so there are some inherent limitations, no matter what they promise, but they always say, we're going to sell it faster and for more money. Well, next time somebody tells you that, why don't you ask to get a written guarantee that if they don't sell it faster or for more money or both, then you get your money refunded. How about that? So if they're going to be that bold about saying and that confident about it, as if they have control of every real estate transaction, as if the real estate agents don't have anything to do with it, as if the buyer or seller doesn't really have that much to do with it, then they're overplaying their hand. A lot of these home stagers, they're just overplaying their hand. All right. So I guess that's it for tip number one. I guess we'll get some more tips that would be helpful to you. Remember, it's always best to have a win-win situation, no matter what. Okay. All right. We'll talk to you later. This is Steve Adamco, the owner and founder of Spectrum Interiors. And yes, we do staging. Okay. We operate in the residential arena for the most part, in lighting design, furniture design. We do seminars, webinars, teleseminars, workshops, and the like. So we have a lot to offer in terms of education. And I will say this, and it's part of my credo, if you will, that an educated client is a better client and they're more fun. Okay. You don't get anything particular by being uneducated or ignorant of certain things. Okay. So anyway, for those that are buying houses, buyer beware. Watch out for the tricks that home stagers will use to make it seem bigger. Well, seeming bigger and being bigger are two different things, right? One is just mirage, as Bugs Bunny would say. It's a mirage. The other is reality. Okay, there's a difference between reality and reality TV. Okay, making it seem bigger when it's not bigger. Well, you tell me, which is real? The seemed version, the perceived version, or the real measurable version? And so when it comes to a house, seeming bigger doesn't mean a hill of beans. It's got dimension to it. It's something you can measure, length, width, height. Okay? I mean, you can make it seem bigger, but watch out when you're buying something about seeming bigger. Well, honey, it seemed bigger when we bought it or when we saw it, but now, okay, yeah, right. That's what I'm talking about. All right. So let's get smart about these things. All right. Talk to you later.